Hey X, I don't want to hit you with the long-time looker, first-time poster, but that is the case here. I've never had many paranormal things happen to me that I could not rationalize or explain as just me schizoing out, but there is one series of happenings that I have never had any explanation for, and that have sat around in the back of my mind ever since they happened. At the time, I must have been around 8 to 10 years old, living in Budapest. I don't want to dox myself, but this happened in the general vicinity of the Városliget area. I'm sorry if this story is long, but this is the first time I'm ever writing it down, and I want to get every detail down in case someday I forget about it. I would not say that I believe in the supernatural. I've always been one to rationalize every weird thing to ever happen to me, but I have always had a fascination with spooky shit. That's the reason I'm on this board in the first place. Apologies for typos or shitty English, it's not my first language. For context, I have had a single dad practically since birth. He is ex-army, the kind of dad you whine about in school as a teenager, but really appreciate when you get older. He was always working, on his computer or out of the house, so we never had a good relationship until I was older. With my dad always busy, and not many friends in school, I spent most of my time alone. I spent most of my school time drawing comics for my best friends, and I spent my time at home basically living in another world. This is all to say that I did have a really overactive imagination and absolutely roaring ADD. This being Eastern Europe and being the son of an easily angered alcoholic single dad, well, good luck getting a hold of any kind of treatment or medical acknowledgement for that. The last bit of context that I need to bore you with is that this apartment had a really unique layout. Pic related is a shitty rendition of what it looked like, and the numbers on the photo mark where each story took place. We lived on the 8th floor of a slightly nicer than usual commie block. The apartment kind of wrapped around itself, and you could run circles in it, passing through most of the rooms. It looked like a giant letter O, is what I'm trying to say. The first time it happened, we had friends over. I must have been around 8 years old. I honestly do not remember them very well, but our apartment turned into a hen house overnight. It was some drunkard single mother with her daughter and her elderly mother. I remember thinking the mom was what seemed like the stereotypical American party girl at the time. She had blonde curly hair that looked like an afro. She took me, 7, and her daughter, 8, to a club with her, and was confused when she was not let in with us. They had shown up out of nowhere one day. The mother called my dad, saying that they were on a trip visiting, but that their hotel booking was cancelled, and now they had nowhere to stay. Looking back on it now, she was definitely just trying to sleep with my dad and made something up. I was freaked out by the mom, since she was always trying to feel up my dad, and was really weird around me too. Her mom, the elderly woman, was also really weird, but slept for most of the time that she was with us, so I don't have any memories of her. Her daughter, though, was very cute. I remember feeling bad for her daughter. I think we had some kind of unspoken agreement that we were going to get through this together. So, while our parents were drunk in the kitchen blasting music, we stayed inside my room. I showed her my Ninja Turtle action figures, and she showed me her favorite songs. It was really nice. As her mom took her to bed, we agreed to go out to the park together tomorrow. When the first night came, I slept in my room, my dad in his. The mom stayed on a sofa in the living room. The elderly woman stayed in the guest room, and the daughter stayed in the guest room as well. The first encounter takes place on the part of pic attached marked with 1, or at least, that is where I saw it come from. I am gonna attempt a green text for the sake of making this easier to digest. Be me. It's really late. Definitely past midnight. Everybody is asleep. I can't sleep. I'm too excited for tomorrow. I need to piss. I get out of the bunk bed to get to the bathroom. I turn on the hallway light. I make it to the bathroom no problem. I finish pissing and get ready to leave. The hallway light is still on. I start walking back to my room through it. There is absolutely no indication that anything is wrong. Out of nowhere, a giant black figure runs from the beginning of the hallway at me. I am fucking terrified. It runs through me. I am literally paralyzed with fear. I stand there for a minute, looking at where it came from. Nothing is there. What the fuck? I am too scared to turn around and look behind me. I walk into my room, close the door without looking back, and climb into my bed again. I keep my eyes toward the wall and stare at it till morning. It looked like a person just blacked out. Exactly like a really dark shadow on a summer evening. It was so dark. It was like a person, just elongated upwards. The legs and arms were longer than they should be, and the head was too. It was way taller than me. The apartment had a really tall ceiling, and it was much taller than your average person. Not quite double the size, but maybe 1.5 humans. It ran at me like a jogger. Its hands were doing the motion you make when you're running really fast. I didn't feel anything when it went through me, and there was no noise at all. But the light in the hallway was on. All the doors except the bathroom door were closed, and there was no light inside the other rooms. There was no windows through which cars could have reflected into, and it was clearly there. I did not see it out of my peripheral vision. I saw it clearly in front of me, and I saw the whole thing. I saw whatever the hell that was, but I convinced myself I just imagined it. After all, it was late. I rationalized it, and one day, while in the car with my dad, I decided to tell him and see what he thinks about it. Be me, in the car with my dad. Be about a week after the other family left our house. It's a cold evening. We are stuck in traffic. My face went, heated seats. Oh yeah. My dad is unusually quiet. We usually only really talk in the car, so it is weird for him to be silent. I think of something to say. I decide it might be a good time to see what he thinks about the whole thing. I give him a rundown of everything that happened. I tell him everything I just wrote down here, but lighten the mood so I don't seem like a nutcase. My dad laughs. You think we got ghosts now? I mumble something like, I don't know, but... My dad starts explaining how it was just a trick of the light or just a car passing, despite knowing there are no windows in that area of the apartment. My dad is chuckling the whole time and eventually says, Ghosts, wow. I feel very embarrassed because of his reaction, and I don't bring it up again. About 6 months go by. I kind of forgot about the whole thing. I still get creeped out thinking about it, but convinced that it was just a trick of the light, just like my dad said. I don't bring it up to my friends at school because, well, I don't want to seem like even more of a moron. This is the second time something related happened. That thing was standing in the area marked 2 on pic related. Be me. Be around the same age as the previous story. I am brushing my teeth in the bathroom. The light in the hallway is off, but both bathroom doors are open. I am listening to music on some shitty gas station headphones. My dad is in the living room. Out of the side of my eye, I see the most stereotypical, goblin-looking ass thing. It's completely black, again, like a shadow. The whole hallway is dark, but this is darker than the surrounding shadow. It looks like some shit from Harry Potter. It is a short, stubby shadow. It looks like it has 2 horizontal pointed ears. I pay it no mind. It's probably just a weird shadow. I am suddenly feeling confident, telling myself it is not real and that I should not be scared. I am busy listening to AC/DC, which my dad had just introduced me to. I keep brushing my teeth while ignoring it. It runs at me. Really fast, but I can still see the general shape. Before it gets to me, I close my eyes. I scream and drop my toothbrush. My dad runs into the bathroom. What the hell happened? Are you okay? I am really scared. My dad starts looking for injuries, thinks I cut myself or something. I tell him I thought I saw something. My dad tells me I just imagined it and that I am okay. My dad stays with me in the bathroom while I finish brushing my teeth. I look into the hallway. Nothing is there. I go to bed. Nothing else weird happens that night. This one I'm not even sure is connected to the rest of the happenings, but I thought I would mention it just in case it made some kind of sense to anybody. I believe I could have imagined this one because it was in my peripheral vision and I didn't see it as clearly. Also, a goblin? Really? Things quiet down. It's been around 2 years since I saw the tall thing in the hallway. Just kind of accepted that weird shit goes on. I had a few other paranormal experiences in the house that are only tangentially related, so I won't get into it here. I got a cat in the meantime. His name was Lightning. He was one of those orange cats with darker stripes. My dad and I found him as a kitten underneath a car, and we decided to keep the little bastard. I could write off the ones above as nothing but a trick of the light, a hallucination, anything at all that had some reason to it. But then something happened that convinced me otherwise, something that makes my skin crawl every single time I think about it. I had a good friend at this time. Let's call him Vucko. Vuko was a year older than me. He was a chubby Serbian kid who went to my school. He had a younger sister who was a year younger than me, and I will call her Meg. I went over to their apartment and vice versa pretty often, since it was in the commie block across from ours. We had sleepovers, we went on trips, walks in parks, etc. We were all pretty close. When this took place though, I did not know much about Meg though. She was always just kind of there. We had almost nothing in common, and on my first sleepover at their place, I walked in on her showering. That is to say, she did not like me very much. This Friday evening, we decided to go to the nearby park. It was already dark outside, as it was winter. Meg and Vuko's parents let them walk over to my apartment by themselves, which is a trait my father did not share. So our parents agreed that they would come over to my apartment, and then we would all go to the playground, accompanied by my dad. My dad, being the chain smoker he is, went out to the cigarette store. You need to go to special shops here that only sell cigarettes and alcohol to buy any, and said he would be back within 10 minutes. While I was waiting for my dad, the doorbell rang. I ran to the door and opened it, ready to show them my brand new basketball that we could throw around at the playground. To my surprise, only Meg was there. I just awkwardly said hi and let her inside. She did not say anything other than an equally awkward response to my greeting, and while she was taking off her shoes, I remember praying that her brother was going to come over soon, and that I would not be stuck with her alone, because like I said, we had absolutely nothing in common. To my relief, after taking off her shoes, she turned around and told me that her brother, Vuko, was in fact coming, but that he was not done eating his dinner. This isn't very relevant, but his parents basically starved him because he was fat. He only got 1 to 2 meals per day, which is why he was eating dinner so early in the evening. I said okay, and I nervously walked over to the main bedroom, which was used as a kind of base of operations whenever they came over. We sat on the bed and started talking about something. My memory is not great since it was so long ago, but I think she was complaining about how her mother had yelled at Vuko before they left, and that she just wanted to leave, and that's why she got to my place first and alone. In the span of about 15 minutes, we actually started to become real friends. She liked Legos, played some of the same games as me, and the conversation eventually became something or other about Minecraft. I remember I was shocked that she knew it. I never knew Meg played any games at all. I took my tablet from the bedside cabinet and started showing her my Minecraft Pocket World Edition. We were both sitting on the bed, looking down at my tablet. We were facing the huge doorway that leads into the living room. I vividly remember I was showing her a house I made in one of those big red mushroom trees. Just then, something ran across the floor of the living room, something small, like one of those thin racing dogs in a running position. It's hard to explain, especially because it was only there for a second, but the dog I'm thinking of, I think in English it is called a greyhound, from what a quick Google search tells me. It was in a very specific position when I saw it, like it was right in the middle of sprinting. Its hind legs were kind of inside its front legs. I really hope that makes sense. I don't think I even flinched. I just accepted it as, yeah, it's that hallucination again. And in that split second, between the thing running across the room and me ignoring it, Meg's head jolted upwards. My stomach fucking sank. I looked at her in genuine horror. I was hoping it was just a coincidence. I was so fucking scared. To my despair, she asked me, Did you see that? My entire world felt like it came crumbling down. After years of weird shit happening in my house, and me just convincing myself into believing none of it was real, I finally had a witness. I was both relieved that she saw it, because it meant I wasn't crazy, and fucking petrified because that means something was actually there. Trying to rationalize it after absolutely losing my shit, I said maybe it was my cat. Before I could even think, yeah, it was just the cat. Meg pointed over to the smaller guest bed that was next to the one that we were sitting on. It was my cat, curled up in a ball, sleeping peacefully. In full honesty, I don't even remember the rest of the night, or the day after. I think we just convinced ourselves it was nothing, but that experience never left my mind. It scares the shit out of me, even today. I was convinced I was crazy, and I think I liked it that way, because that gave me a logical explanation for it. But that day, Meg saw it too. Whatever it was, I was not the only one seeing it. After that nightmare experience, nothing really happened. A year later, we moved, into an apartment close to the general area of the last one. I, again, totally forgot about it all, and had not had anything as undeniably paranormal happen since the move. About 6 months after moving in, I was walking down our new hallway, a much shorter one, and despite the hallway overhang light not being on, it was almost entirely illuminated by our kitchen light and the light from my dad's room. I was walking down it to get to my room when I saw the fucker again, a dark, completely black, human-shaped thing. It ran at me like the first time. It was much darker than the rest of the hallway, just like the other times. The light that illuminated the hallway did not illuminate it at all, just like the first time I saw it. It was not the same one from the first encounter. It was a little shorter, still taller than me, but shorter than the first one, and the arms were not in a jogging motion, rather just kind of flailing around. Again, it passed right through me. I shat myself. I could not believe it. I speed walked into my room as the words, "they're back," flooded my mind, and repeated again and again and again and again. All of my thoughts were just drowned out by the repeating, "they're back, they're back, they're back, they're back," and I genuinely fell to the floor. I held my hands to the floor on my knees, just staring at it. It felt like my soul itself was trying to escape out of my back. The thoughts in my mind were just paranoia. I'm not implying that some ghoul put them in there, but I was so genuinely scared that I did not know how to stop thinking it. I don't think I've ever been that scared in my entire life. That was the last time I saw anything like that. It's been quite a few years, and I still live in the same apartment as that last story. There is one last story I've been meaning to share, but avoiding. I guess now is as good a time as any. In that same apartment as the first stories, the O-shaped one, I'm pretty sure I got possessed or at least had some kind of experience. It was really late. I was sleeping in the main bedroom with my dad, must have been about 10 years old at the time. My dad was very drunk that evening and just kind of passed out. I felt a deep discomfort that evening. If anybody reading this also had a drunken parent, then you know the kind I'm referring to. It's almost a feeling of shame and fear. That feeling was keeping me awake. I was laying on the left side of the bed, the side towards the bathroom in the first picture. It was very late. I could not sleep. Later, I found out it was around 2 a.m. at the time it started happening. I suddenly noticed a quiet voice in my head that's been raising in volume for a few minutes. Not like my inner monologue. It felt like it was coming from behind me, or at least from the back of my head. It did not sound like me. It did not sound like anybody, but I could feel what it was saying and its tone of voice. Again, it was not my inner monologue. I am 100% sure of this. I never heard the voice appear or start talking, not like any auditory hallucination that I've ever had later in life. For some explanation, those auditory hallucinations I had were very short, loud, and felt like they were being shouted into my ears. This was quiet. It was coming from somewhere that I could not pinpoint in the real world, and it lasted hours. Hours. At first I was very curious, and I tried to be very quiet so I could hear what it was saying. At first I thought it was my dad whispering or mumbling in his sleep, but I did not hear his signature gurgling noise that he makes when he was drunk and asleep. I also did not hear or feel any breathing or feel him move. For some reason, I felt like I should not turn around. My memory becomes foggy here, but I will give my best possible recounting. I have never recounted this story in full to anybody up until now. It's just been locked away in my head since it happened, so I might not be making a lot of sense. I tried my best to listen to the voice coming from the back of my head. It seemed to be very quiet. It slowly got louder over the course of a few minutes. It was telling me about some kind of massacre. I have never tried to track these stories it told me down, so I'm not sure if it's an actual, real occurrence or not. It told me about a rich, bourgeois family that lived in a small mansion, and how one of their maids became enraged because they treated her so poorly. The voice said that one day, she just could not take it anymore, and she grabbed an axe from some kind of small shed behind the house. I think this small shed was full of wood for some reason. The voice told me how she first killed the young daughter of the family in great detail. Way too much detail for a kid like me to be able to imagine. It told me that the daughter was sleeping when the maid attacked her, and that the first swing created a deep, almost canyon in her ribs. The voice told me she did not even scream. that she was in shock when she woke up. It told me how the maid kept bringing the axe down on her, and told me how the blood had splattered onto the ceiling. Just then, in my mind's eye, I saw a portrait. I'm not sure if this is a tradition anywhere else in the world, but here in Eastern Europe, when you are walking through your school, you will see large paintings and portraits of all of the students who have graduated before you. The very old portraits on those paintings look similar to this. It was in black and white and had some kind of oval frame around it. I did not purposefully imagine that. It just appeared in my mind. At that point, I was shitting my pants. I tried to stop the voice from speaking and almost screaming in my head, but trying to change the subject and trying to imagine something else. This would work under any other circumstances, but it did not work this time. It seemed like my brain was being hijacked. I could control my thoughts, but that voice, I could not control it, because it was not my thoughts. It was something separate. I so clearly remember that it was something separate to my own being, like another person speaking inside my head. It went on to tell me how the maid killed the other cleaning ladies, the mother, who I distinctly remember had a very specific face. She almost looked like a cat. The father, who I distinctly remember had a mustache, and lastly, the youngest child, the young son of the parents. It told me the boy was only 10 years old, and it described all of their deaths in a lot of detail. How the mother was trying to call for help, and how the maid decapitated her with a few swings. How the young boy did not even understand what was going on. The voice told me how all of that happened in just one night. The whole time this was happening, I remember being frozen. I could look around. I remember very well that I could move, but I was too afraid to. I had grabbed my pillow, and I was pushing it against my head, trying to block out my ears. After each story, it told me about a person dying in that house. I saw another portrait show up in my mind's eye. I remember it clearly. It was just a black background and about 8 portraits. I don't remember each story anymore. It felt like the voice was telling me all of this in a very matter-of-fact way. Like it wasn't just trying to scare me. Like it was just telling me something. For a second, after finishing telling me all of this, it stopped. I felt very relieved. I remember vividly letting out a long exhale that felt like I used up every single bit of my air that I had in my lungs. I was just so happy that it was all over. I moved to lay on my back. I felt safe again. I saw my dad sleeping, just like he was when I first got into bed. I felt better, knowing I was not here alone. Then I felt that same feeling of dread again. That feeling felt like something terrible was coming, and I had no way of escaping it, like I was about to witness a natural disaster. I stared at the ceiling, too afraid to look around. I closed my eyes as soon as it started talking again. I remember thinking, no, please, not again, please, don't do this again, as the voice got louder and louder. At this point, I think I started crying. I turned to my dad, and I held his shirt with my hands. Despite being visited by some fuck-ass ghoul, I was still more scared of waking up my drunk dad and having him yell at me for being a moron. This time, it told me about some kind of bridge. I again saw it very clearly in my mind's eye, despite not wanting to, and doing everything in my power to override that picture. It was dark, very late at night. The bridge was made of what I think was concrete, with an asphalt road and concrete edges to act as railings. It had a few street lamps. One of them, the closest one that I saw, was a deeper orange than the rest, and it flickered sometimes. The voice told me how it was somehow related to the disappearances of people, how it almost ate the people that passed underneath it. I obviously was not in the mood to question the ominous demon voice that was telling me about the spooky lamp cryptid that eats people, but, of course, now I see how funny it is. At the time, though, I was terrified. It told me how people who pass under it at night and alone go missing, and how their families are forever left wondering what really happened to them, and it focused a lot on the despair that the families felt. I seem to distinctly remember that the voice described just how much of a terrible fate it is to lose your loved ones and never get closure as to what happened to them. I was looking at my dad and praying to God that I was just asleep and dreaming, even though I could see and feel my dad breathing right in front of me. The voice told me 4 stories in total, but I only remember these 2 stories. I turned around the position I was in when I first heard it. I became tired, and I did not care about the voice anymore. I just wanted it to stop. It had gone on for so long that it felt like it was never going to stop. I felt like I was stuck in an eternal loop of some podcaster talking. Suddenly, my dad woke up with a guttural noise. I jumped. It scared the shit out of me. After he just sat on the bed for a few minutes, my dad started walking into the living room, heading towards the kitchen. I realized that the voice seemed to be getting quieter. It did not stop suddenly, but it felt like it was getting farther away. I stood up, and I followed my dad like a baby duck. I don't know why I did this. I would usually be terrified of my dad if he is drunk and it is late, but I just felt like I needed to follow him. The voice stopped altogether by the time I got into the kitchen. The feeling was still there. My dad, still drunk, asked me why I was awake. We had a trip tomorrow. We were driving to Serbia with Vuko and Meg with us in our car. He berated me for still being awake. I remember him saying, "You're ruining your life and your dad's life just out of nowhere." I didn't care. I felt so happy that it was finally over. I stupidly tried to explain what just happened to my dad, but he immediately brushed it off as just a nightmare. I kept talking about it while we were in the kitchen and all the way back to the room that we were sleeping in, where he told me, "Just be quiet. My head hurts. You had a bad dream, that's all. You can play something on the TV. Just put the volume down and go to bed." I did play something on the TV. Some video related to that show, Gravity Falls, as it was my favorite cartoon as a kid. I got into bed. I remember my dad already snoring. He hugged me for a second and told me I'm fine and just had a bad dream. The feeling was slowly going away and being replaced by fear, confusion, and a general feeling of, what in the shit just happened? I was lying in bed, eyes glued to the TV, and I eventually fell asleep. I don't know how I fell asleep. I just passed out eventually. Considering that the time on the TV, smart TV, so there was a clock in the home menu, read some time at 4 a.m, and that I was awake, being tormented by this voice for minimum an hour. I think I started hearing it around 1 to 2 a.m. I got into bed at midnight if I remember correctly, so this is not too weird. The next day when we woke up, we finished packing and piled into our car. My friends and their parents came to the street corner where we were parked and waiting. The parents said bye to their kids. We all piled into the back seats, with my dad in the driver's seat. About 15 minutes into the trip, I told them about what happened. My friend Vuko said, "No way. There's no way that happened. You're lying." And for some reason, I remember laughing in that moment. I was not lying at all, but for some reason I smiled after he implied that I was. I can't really explain this reaction of mine. I was still very scared after what happened, but in that moment, something just felt different, like I was not allowed to tell him. That's the story. Nothing like that ever happened again. I never heard that voice ever again. I don't know if I was having some kind of schizophrenic episode, or if some stupid ghost of a man-eating streetlight actually was whispering sweet nothings into my ear, but it happened. It wasn't sleep paralysis. It wasn't a dream. I know for a fact that it happened. On the more schizo side of things, we live right next to an old sanatorium and military hospital. I actually did not know it was also used as a sanatorium until I started writing this and tried to find a link to post about here. So maybe some lamppost-obsessed poor bastard's ghost decided to come and torment a little boy after being bored of haunting his psych ward. The entire place was knocked down after we moved out of that apartment. I don't know what it's used for, as I don't pass by it as often. I used to pass it every day. It was pretty spoopy shit. Sometimes you would smell death through the fence, although that was probably just dead rats. The windows and buildings were all in pristine condition, despite being very obviously abandoned. You saw the flashlights of the 2 security guards walking around sometimes. My first thought after that experience was to search up if anybody had died in that apartment. Surprise, surprise, I did not find anything at all. But that hospital and sanatorium were right next to us. Just like my last stories, I'm not saying I had some kind of 100% undeniably paranormal experience, but I'm saying it stuck with me and freaked me out. I don't have any strong opinions on what it was. I just hope it never happens again. I found this link about the hospital if anybody is interested. There doesn't seem to be a lot of information online in English to be expected. but that is the hospital and sanatorium that I was referring to. This is the Hungarian Wikipedia page for it. The photos in the gallery are from inside the sanatorium and general hospital. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you.